African Affairs analyst and Channel Africa producer Nixon Katembo joins us now to talk to us about the discussions at the United Nations Security Council and the situation in the east of the DRC. Nixon, always good to have you. Thanks very much indeed for joining us.
Thanks for welcoming me, Peter.
All right, so what is the situation now? Is it clear that Monusco, UN-supported forces, will be leaving the DRC?
At this point, it's not very clear, although there have been discussions that Monusco should gradually leave the country up until 2024. And I think that those are the discussions now that they are having with the DRC government, but owing to also pressure within the DRC, particularly with the local population feeling that they are tired of Monusco, but also the government of the DRC itself cannot wash its hand, and for the fact that they are also pulling the string behind the scenes also orchestrating some of the protest against the Monusco. So it's, in a way, one have to give it a credit to the people somehow, in a sense that Monusco haven't made a really significant change in their lives, and the people still get killed every day, and that's the reason why we see these discussions of having them to leave. In fact, the population want them gone as yesterday.
So, I mean, help me understand. We're seeing, and this is what Bintou Keita said at the UN Security Council, an escalation of a dire situation in the east of the DRC, that these armed groups are continuing to create more chaos and mayhem there. Surely it will get completely out of hand, if it isn't already, if these forces are withdrawn.
Peter, let me make this clear. When Monusco came to the DRC, there were less than 12 armed groups. That was around the year 2000. Monusco has been there since the year 2000 up until today. The DRC is believed to have about 140 armed groups. And there are three types of armed groups in the DRC. Those who are of local defense, what they call auto-defense, self-defending. Others who are seen as foreign funded, and the others who are seen as opportunistic militias preying on natural resources. The fourth group, though, is the foreign armed group now, your FDLR and ADF, as well as FNL in South Kivu. Those are from Burundi, Rwanda, and Uganda, respectively. All these have thrived in the presence of Monusco. And then one wonder, what was the mission? The mission was to pacify the country, to restore peace, and to bring much needed security to the civilian population. Has that happened? No. Just about a week ago, Secretary of the UN, Antonio Guterres, speaking to France 24, said that even a group like M23 have sophisticated more arms than Monusco, the peacekeeping itself. The question is, where do those armed groups get the finance, the armament, and even to the extent of having sophisticated arms more than the UN Peacekeeping Mission itself? And it begs the question to go back to the real issue of the DRC. The DRC faces multifaceted challenges. One is the issue of the natural resources, which have come to be a curse to the country. Everyone is eyeing for that resources. You would recall Uganda being, sanctioned for plundering the DRC. Rwanda have been accused of the same. Angola went in, Zimbabwe went in during those successive years of wars. The second is the lack of strategic leadership within the DRC. The lack of institutions of the state that seeks to function in aiding and running the government to serve the Congolese people themselves. The third aspect is the international community itself, namely the power that be in the West. The United States, France, Belgium, all of them having interest in the DRC owing to its natural resources, including China, by the way, and Russia of late. So the DRC become an area of contestation, and if these groups are coming in, it's because of those 3 or 4 critical issues that I point out that need to be looked at holistically to solve the issue of the DRC. It's not that the people of the DRC want to stay in perpetual war. Some of these wars are manufactured and brought to the people of the DRC, i.e. the invasion of Uganda and Rwanda in 1996. Now the subsequent Rwanda's incursion in the DRC and a justification that they are looking for the FDLR. If they don't change that they are looking for the FDLR, they are protecting Banyamulenge or ethnic Tutsis who have a Congolese descent. So you see the narrative keep on changing. But when you look at those who are even behind countries like Rwanda or Uganda, are even greater powers such as Britain, such as the United States, who are, by the way, are training the very same army of those neighboring countries to the DRC. Now, the DRC itself, as I said, the lack of strategic leadership. Look at the current president. You don't know what his foreign policy is. You don't know what his diplomatic achievement or even objective is. To have a country that need to secure its border, then you call it different militaries. East African Standby Force.
So what you're saying is
UN
he doesn't have a plan.
He doesn't have a plan.
Okay. So Bintou Keita said to the UN Security Council that the DRC authorities, government, needs to be empowered to deal with these insurgents and these armed groups. What does empowered look like, and what does it mean if Monusco couldn't do anything?
Peter, and to the sake of the viewers, empowerment should be sent at the UN corridors. Empowerment should have been done a long time ago by implementing the security sector reform that was recommended long ago, just after the Sun City talks. Part of it was to overhaul the DRC army, to build a Republican army with the assistance of Monusco. That was never done. It takes about 3 to 6 months to train a soldier. And if you want to train a professional soldier, it takes about a year or 2. Monusco is there for 20 years. What have they done? Even the DRC government itself, again, I go back to the issue of strategic leadership. If you lack patriotic leaders who have a vision for a country like the DRC, you are prone to incursion in a way that the DRC have been having those incursions from neighboring countries. Now, everyone else is upon himself in that country. The current government, as I said, you don't know exactly what they are doing. It's almost 4 years since President Tshisekedi is in power. Tell me, what has he done in the military to fend off the various armed groups in the DRC? We know for the fact that the DRC army is a conglomerate of different rebel militias who came together after the talks. But they should have restructured the army in a way that serve the people. It's army that is apolitical. But unfortunately, we have an army which have a different loyalties.
Is it too late?
I think it's not too late.
What needs to happen?
What needs to happen is to do a security sector reform, as I said. Restructure the entire army. Build the institution of the state of that country from scratch. One of the mistakes that was done during the chasing away of Mobutu was to get away with the entire state machinery. And that had a serious repercussion on the way the DRC was going to happen afterwards. Mobutu had an entire army, although under his dictatorship, it was done away with during Kabila's invasion with the assistance of Uganda and Rwanda. And of course, the United States behind all of this. I remember the ambassador then saying that it is done. Finally over. This is the ambassador of the US saying that. In other words, we have accomplished our mission in the DRC.
So if what you say is true, that there are all these international actors and that there are domestic players and regional players, this reform that you're talking about is not going to be enough.
It's not going to be enough unless there is a political will both within the DRC, on the part of the local leaders, Congolese leaders realizing that it is enough for the country to be under perpetual war, is enough to be for the country to be under perpetual disarray, and think about a strategic leadership in a way of building the state that seeks to serve the people. Unfortunately, when such a leader emerges, then it's always a power contestation between the interests of the country and those that seeks to have a control of the natural resource of the DRC. And you see it in the likes of the late former President Laurent Kabila, when he wanted to pay the IMF and the World Bank and strengthen the Congolese currency, the Congolese franc, which, by the way, under Kabila it became $1 to equal to 1 Congolese franc. It became a serious threat because the war of the DRC is not just a political one, but it's an economic war. And to win that economic war, you have to navigate through all these aspects that I have mentioned,
very
especially with a strong leadership and a visionary leadership. And if you don't have that, the country is going to stay in that mess until Congolese themselves wake up and think about their future as a country. Otherwise,
it will be chaos.
We've
run out of time, unfortunately, but very quickly, if you could just comment on the situation in Burkina Faso. A second coup within 8 months.
It is not surprising. There is a power contestation within the West African region. One is the waning of French influence in the region. The second is the incursion of American wanting to have influence in the region. The third one is Russia's also influence in the region. The fourth is the Chinese influence. The fifth is the resources that are being discovered in that region. So the power contestations is likely going to happen across West Africa, and the more coups are likely to happen in those countries as we witness. Because if you look at what happened now in Burkina Faso, it is happening while Americans are training soldiers under Operation Fleet Flog, saying that they are combating terrorism. But remember, the terrorism that quote-unquote happened in West Africa started after the discovery of oil, after the discovery of diamond, after the discovery of greater gold deposit in Mali. So there you have it.
All right. We've run out of time, but some words of warning there that there could be more coups in the region given the scenarios that are playing out. Nixon, always good talking to you. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
Thanks for having me.